Most individuals live the sunlit world of what they believe to be reality, but there is a place down hole, untouchable by most, a dark world, a place with resources not easily obtained, but with those resources that drive civilization. The subsurface. This is the tales from the job site.
What the hell was that intro? Who's running the Driller Newscast these days? Good day, drilling industry, and welcome to episode 133 of the Driller Newscast. This is our third annual Halloween edition. Wait a minute, I filmed the first one. Who filmed the second one? What hacks did you get? Obviously, it didn't pan out. You're back to the legend, Ron Jorgendy. What do you mean this is live and we can't cut it out? Good morning, and welcome to episode 133 of the Driller Newscast, a weekly update on the news and stories impacting the drilling industry. I'm your rightful and appropriate host, Ron Jorgendy. All right, it's our Halloween episode, and it's brought to you by Derek Drills. Decades of experience and dedication for innovation has made Derek's one of the fastest growing rig manufacturers in Canada. The Imagineers behind the best domestic dual rotary drilling rig now offers drills to meet every need of the serious water well, geothermal, and RC exploration driller. Thank you, Derek and team, for bringing us the news this week and reinstating the rightfully brilliant Ron Jorgendy to the newscast. Happy Halloween, everybody. We start the newscast this week with zombie orphan wells. Next, we will discuss C8 chemicals, those PFAS chemicals, and the alarming number of groundwater contamination worldwide. This week's feature is the top impacts on the drilling and construction industry as we end 2024. But before we get into the news, let's let that safety professional Brock Yorty back in here to talk some safety. Yes, this is the only part I get to do this week. For this week in safety, I want to tell you a scary story titled Tales of the Construction Clowns and Decisions That Haunt a Company's Legacy. Hi, I'm Brock Yorty, Ocean 1926 authorized trainer and a student of behavioral-based safety in the construction industry. Our story starts on a Friday afternoon. There are just 2 hours left of a shift. It's Halloween, and the crew is excited to end the shift, grab a quick shower, put on their Everyone is a Driller Tonight costume, and attend Bar Roughneck's annual Halloween party. However, as the afternoon progresses and the crew mentally leaves the job site, clowns and clown decision-making enters. First, there was a slip and a trip resulting in a skinned elbow. Had to be reported. Second was an overexertion injury by carrying 3 bags of gel. This isn't ESPN The Ocho. Nobody cares of the tough man contest that's happening on site. There's no room for these type of shortcuts. Finally, the worst situation. While tripping out, an individual forgot his hand placement and crushed his left hand, including smashing and losing his pinky and ring finger in the table. The direct cost for that injury was $48,000, with an additional indirect cost of $62,000, totaling $110,000 in that injury. That day resulted in losing 2 crew members for multiple months and lost time work days of 110. I want you to consider the hand injury, the repetitive stress injury, the trip from hurrying across and the low light as it's getting dark. How much does it require to recover from clowns on a job site? We've talked many times on the newscast. 80% of all construction injuries are unsafe acts, not conditions. Beyond losing two valuable players and increasing insurance, impacting opportunity to bid other projects, how much additional sales have to be generated to recover those costs to get the company back on track? Site supervisors, drillers, lead pump men, you are the ringmaster of that circus. You are responsible for every act on site and creating the best safety conditions as possible. It is up to you to stop the circus when the clowns are out of control. I need you to consider these situations as we have more than just Halloween parties that we're rushing to as we get into the last 2 months of the year. Proper tools, equipment, standard operating procedures, and understanding our PPE for the job. It's going to lead to employees making good decisions and keeping the job site productive, safe, and profitable. That pinky and ring finger, don't come back. Not to mention, every time we see that individual thinking about how could we have prevented that today? Who could have said stop? These are things we have to consider. I know it's not that scary of a story until you pull those gloves off and somebody cringes back and goes, I don't want to work in this industry. And that's a damn nightmare. Be safe, everybody. Happy Halloween. Thanks, Brock. Sure know how to bring everybody down. Don't worry, folks. Braun is here to lighten up the mood. Roll that feed. This week in the news, zombie well apocalypse. Who the hell is our writing staff here? Can't we talk about best pet costumes on a drilling site? Nobody can hear you. You're not mic'd up. Fine, let's get on with the news. This week, zombie well apocalypse. Sorry, everybody, I'll just keep scaring the hell out of you. In the past 3 years, from Texas to North Dakota, from Pennsylvania to California, orphan wells have been made a major focus by the EPA and Department of Interior. This is due to the bipartisan infrastructure law, which in 2022 delivered the largest investment in tackling legacy pollution from orphan wells. We've heard Brock talk about this on the newscast before. It's $4.7 billion. It's wild to think that the Department of Interior has been monitoring orphan wells and fighting for money since 2009. As of August of 2024, $1 billion has been distributed to 21 states. This funding has plugged 8,200 orphan wells and created 7,200 jobs in the past 2 years. However, at the same time as we celebrated this milestone in August of abandoning 8,200 wells, stories of zombie orphan wells coming back online have been reported in Colorado, in West Virginia, and most recently making the news in the Permian Basin, West Texas. The term zombie well comes from multiple pathways. First, of those 120,000 wells out there, they're releasing methane gas, a greenhouse gas. Remember, we have a greenhouse gas reduction. We want to save the oil and gas drilling industry. We got to shut down these zombies. Next, pressure is exerted by nearby oil and gas operations, including injection into disposal wells, creating new head pressures to force fluids in these coming back to life zombie wells to surface. Finally, and this is the big player that we're seeing pop up, abandoned orphan wells, not utilizing best practices by operators for plugging, are creating restricted micro pathways, which allow under pressure to force crude and other fluids to surface. Texas Railroad Commission is seeing plenty of this right now. There's 3 individuals to be overseeing these, lots of wells. There's an estimated $500 million required to abandon these orphan wells in Texas. The Department of Interior's database includes 120,000 orphan wells across 30 states. However, the United States Geological Survey estimates undocumented orphan wells to be somewhere between 310,000 and 800,000. That's a zombie horde. We ought to be getting a hold of Rick Grimes and Carl, getting them out there to shut these wells down ASAP. In reality, drilling companies, there's $3.7 billion and only roughly 27 states that have taken advantage of this money. From Indiana to Michigan to Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Texas, much of the Western United States, much of the Mid-Con, all have opportunities to shut in these wells, prevent those greenhouse gases from getting out, and help us allow the right drilling operations to happen, including our oil and gas brethren, to continue working. This is unacceptable, and we need the best practices and the best companies doing this. Get involved. Now for some lighter news, let's talk groundwater. Yeah, and drinking water. Our next story is titled Attack of the Thousand-Year C8 Chemicals. Come on, staff, give us a break. Why don't we talk about those tasty drops that you put in boring water so they have caffeine and good tasting things in them? I know I'm not supposed to go off script, but Halloween's supposed to be fun. Fine. Last week, the United States Geological Survey released a report that was on October 24th, stating that 71 to 95 million Americans in the lower 48 states may rely on detectable levels of polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, for their drinking water. Earlier this year, the EPA set legal enforceable levels called maximum contaminant levels for 6 types of PFAS in drinking water. Where do these polyfluoroalkyl substances come from? Initially designed for military-grade paints, tanks in World War II, followed by the adoption of these 8 carbon chain chemicals being used for waterproofing and Teflon. You mean my bacon's under attack too? This is stain-resistant fabrics, carpets, and fast food containers. Hey, at least they didn't say Sex Panther, my favorite cologne, has PFAS in it. You think that does? Can we have something happy? Fine. The World's Economic Forum states the estimated cost to society for PFAS contamination and impacts, $17.5 trillion annually. The PFAS chemical industry produces $4 billion of revenue a year. That's a year. These chemicals take over 1,000 years to degrade on their own. The states with the largest populations relying on public water supplies with potentially contaminated groundwater sources are Florida and California. Consider that 3 most House seat states in the country, 5 days from Election Day. California, Florida, Texas. Texas has the Trinity and the Edwards. They're deep. They also perch at one point. Texas has got a great groundwater protection program out there despite all of the other drilling that's going on. Guarantee there's also PFAS in Texas groundwater. States with private wells impacted by this rank as Michigan, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New York, and Ohio. They have the largest populations relying on potentially contaminated groundwater. Outside of the United States, 69% of the worldwide water supplies surpass safe, enforceable drinking water standards for PFAS. Mind you, to date, no level of PFAS consumption is safe. You can see the entire shakeup with the World Health Organization on their data being skewed by chemical companies. You want a scary movie to be watching this Halloween? Go to Netflix and watch Dark Waters with Mark Ruffalo, the Robert Bilott story. That's a scary story. It starts in Parkersburg, West Virginia, though those chemicals were made initially 3M in Minnesota. When these suits are done, it's going to quadruple what the big tobacco settlements were. This is a big deal. Next time somebody says, man, I really love this old school waterproofer, or this is my favorite frying pan, I want you to consider the implications to that. It's very important. Maybe our next stories, everybody, will bring us up. For our feature this week, we're going to show you cute pets in costumes drinking water with tasty water drops. No, you're just messing with me? Listen, the audience has had enough stress today. We're forcing them to sneak into their children's bedrooms and stress eat all this candy tonight. We start with zombie wells, then we talk about forever chemicals and my favorite cologne, Sex Panther. You know, you're not on mic. They can't hear you. What? Chelsea just called down and she won't renew my contract for next year? We're going to go back to that silly dodgeball character and that baseball guy. Moving on. Our feature this week, the things impacting the industry. That's supposed to be spooky, right? The things impacting the industry. Number one, climate impacts. As of today, there has been 24 confirmed weather climate disasters with losses exceeding 1 billion in the United States. This includes 17 severe storms, 4 tropical cyclone events, wildfires, multiple winter storms. These events resulted in 418 deaths to date. From 1980 to 2023, the United States averaged 8.5 events. However, in the past 5 years, if you do the average, it's been 20.4 events. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, compiled this report titled U.S. Billion Dollar Weather and Climate Disasters 2024. It can be found at NOAA.gov, NOAA.gov. Then search U.S. Billion Dollar Weather and Climate Disasters. I want you to consider the physical impacts to projects, property, and equipment. It's what we talk about, right? Now, outside of the people living in those areas, consider your people, your teams, and the downtime while these areas recover. We're busy helping them recover. When the water is gone and the volunteering's done and it's time to get back to work, we need to understand that basing employee family sustaining wages on 50 to 60-hour work weeks is no longer suitable with 20.5 extreme weather events in the United States. And this is as we consider that we are tipping past that 1.5 degrees Celsius mark. How do we handle this? How do we take care of our people? Reduction in greenhouse gas, smarter building practices are just one piece of this. But as we do this and we hit our 2030 goals and our 40 and our 50 goals, our way of work has to change from extreme heat to severe thunder and lightning to extreme cold and these category 5 hurricanes. Next, drilling industry. Groundwater is more important to us now than ever. And why I say drilling industry is those doing caissons and micropiles and ground source geothermal and cathodic and water well drilling and dewatering and injection wells. On November 1st, tomorrow, the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, PCAST, Brock Yorty has talked about that before, will be discussing America's groundwater challenges. So far, in the past few months, the PCAST has discussed groundwater depletion, use and management, emerging contaminants, and water quality requirements for aquifer storage and recovery wells, and how we handle managing aquifer recharge, MAR. NGWA has done some great discussions on that. They've also gotten involved with PCAST, and we love that. Thank you, NGWA. And that's why Brock Yorty's a proud member of the NGWA. Maybe Bron Yorgandy will sign up too. We need to consider emerging contaminants such as Gen X and PFAS are the utmost consideration as we look at our groundwater monitoring, what we have for quality and quantity, and beyond that, as we do stormwater capture, what's the quality with the myriad of contaminants to be removed in this, and how we monitor that as you consider atmospheric rivers coming through the Western United States and people saying, why didn't we just capture it all? It's no different than us having a small mud cleaning system and we're trying to put 400 gallons a minute across it. What happens? A lot of it ends up on the ground. Braun sounded like Brock there for a second. Seriously, the impact of being able to measure, monitor, and test stormwater or reuse water is very important to us in being able to store this back in the ground and make it better. And that's the final piece to PCAST right now in aquifer depletion is as we clean water from water treatment facilities, how is it monitored? What contaminants are still in it? This PCAST event, like the previous, will be in collaboration to better understand the United States water quantity, including what reserves we have in the groundwater. If there's a fear of how groundwater drilling, how drilling will be regulated more, it's when we start ignoring the importance of the groundwater we're drilling through. From the December 23rd strategic groundwater reserve discussion on PCAST to the ones they've had in May in July and September to this new one in November, this is something we need to be paying attention to. Clean water is bipartisan. Clean water is everybody's responsibility to keep clean. The final impact is how do we collaborate with all of America and industry? We are 5 days from Election Day with a lot of questions about how Republicans or Democrats will handle the next 4 years. There are a lot of House seats, all of them up for re-election. There are lots for us to consider. And I need us as an industry to look for those champions that want to have the right oversight to help us protect groundwater, to protect farmers, to continue what we're doing in the right direction, regardless of who ends up being commander in chief. The legislative branch drives our country. And the great thing about being in the drilling industry is that we have the awesome opportunity to provide resources to progress civilization. Regardless if you're red or blue, we are all Americans in clean water, clean air, and a healthy Mother Nature, which is vital not only to this election day, but for all the future election days. The United States is 248 years old. That's less than 5% of the 5,000-year written history of humanity. We have to think about this. Regardless how the next few weeks turn out, drilling boreholes has been the game changer in the survival of humans. From the oldest wells to the discovery of precious metals, onto unlocking energy from the subsurface, we have a job to continue to progress humanity. When you step into the ballot box, have your research done and know the individuals who fight for our opportunity to keep on drilling. Consider the silly discussions we've had on repealing the IRA. Not only does that impact ground source geothermal drilling, but caissons and pilings for wind, infrastructure, solar farms, lots of drillers involved there, and the improvement to the electrical grid. But it also impacts our farmers and our irrigation wells who are creating biofuels that are driven through the IRA. Reappropriating funds from the federal infrastructure law undermines opportunities for geotechnical and environmental drilling and updating our 100-plus-year-old water and utility infrastructure. No one's taking away the right of a private water well. No one's taking our rights from clean natural gas. The EPA doesn't need to be deregulated. It is not overreaching to prevent drilling, but it is there to enforce the law built by the legislative branch when they have time to build it, forcing the bad actors to conform with best practices. OSHA's, all of their policy making, the new heat rules, all the individuals in 2022, 40 of them that died in trench collapses. OSHA's construction focus doesn't want you to pay more for liability insurance or enforcement. They want to protect the 8.25 million Americans who work in construction and generate almost $2 trillion worth of business. We need more people in construction and drilling. We need more advancement in construction and drilling technologies. We can't do that while we're divided. Spindletop, 1900s, all the technology that came from Spindletop didn't come from Pennsylvania, came from Europe. We didn't advance our drilling industry at that time because we were fighting amongst ourselves. We're all Americans. It's important that we do our part and advocate for our industry and for Mother Nature above all else. Go out and vote. Thanks. I want to do that silly Tales from the Job Site outro. We're not doing that voiceover thing again. Good.
The subsurface resources are always there, waiting for us to drill and define them. The subsurface is ready to present danger and challenges to all who dare enter. Until next time, be safe and enjoy shallow holes and easy downhole conditions.
Nailed it. That's why you'll have Brian Jorgendy back next year. Thank you for joining us for episode 133 of the Driller Newscast. Big thank you to Derek Drills for helping us bring the news. I'm sure Derek has the light on at his shop. Knock on the door, get some candy, throw some eggs at that building. You do that in Canada? Not sure. Have a happy Halloween, everybody, and a safe and productive start to November 2024. The race to Vegas is on. The Driller team will see you in December 10th in Las Vegas for a great conference of collaboration and cheersing our industry. Thanks, everybody. Happy Halloween.